What is going on, OTB Nation? Welcome into episode number 227 of the allegedly award-nominated, honorably mentioned, now viewable on YouTube, and hopefully fixed air-conditioned Outside the Box podcast. We'll get into that during our PLL Long Island recap, but it is KB and DJ coming at you from Underground Studios. We got a lot to dive into. We have a new NLL champion to talk about. The Chaotic Bandits are back on the chaotic side of things, and who knows how the hell they're going to pop off now that they're twice as angry. Of course, we're going to get into the NLL Protected Rosters that were submitted as we record this on Thursday night. We're going to get into all that and explain to everybody why some of your certain players were not protected, in case you don't know the NLL protection rules and free agency rules and all that good stuff. We're going to recap Long Island, get into Baltimore, and, of course, PLL All-Star Ballots are live, so we'll talk about our initial ballots as well, if there's time. Obviously, we're going to see how the show flows, as we always do, but before we get started, make sure you're following us on the socials, at OTB Laxpod, Twitter and Instagram. I'm going to be in Baltimore this weekend, so if you are going to be there, come say what's up. Let's go get lunch, dinner at Jimmy's Seafood. Jimmy's Seafood, I'm coming for that ass. I'm coming for that food. Best believe I'm going to be there because it's the best food in town. Shout out, no free ads. But if you are going to be in Baltimore, come say what's up. I love going to Homewood every single year. Sad Deej can't be there. But he's got coaching. He's got coaching duties, and that's okay. Coach Deej is in the cut.
Yeah. Going right outside my second town, Chirac. Gonna be right outside the Chi-Town, coaching up the boys.
Summertime Shy.
Yeah, it's a 13-14 split for me this weekend. So playing in the 14B bracket, bring home a championship. We're playing in the Grail. It's normally down in Indiana, the Colts facility, but they double booked, so we got booted out to Rockford.
Way to go, Mr. Irsay. Way to go.
I know. I was so excited to go, but it is what it is. Going out to Rockford, so looking to bring one home. But yeah, I'm definitely sad. I was excited for Homewood. But looking back, and I talked to a few people, I was like, coaching is amazing. It's fun, and there's a lot of joys that come with coaching, and I'll have my time to get to see lacrosse at Homewood. It's not the end of the world.
For sure. So we'll preview Baltimore and everything later on the show. But like I said, if you're going to be in Baltimore, come say what's up. Would love to meet you. Baltimore's always a good time to, shake hands, meet some people. Last year was wild at Homewood. It was, the who's who. So we'll get into Baltimore later on in the show. But follow us at OTB Laxpod on Twitter and Instagram. Follow DJ on Twitter at SCS_NextGreat. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Check out the website, undergroundsportsphiladelphia.com, for all of our written content. I got some PLL blogs churning up in my head. I just want to do them the right way. I got them flowing, though. I'm in a good headspace for blogging, and I'm excited about that, because when I get an opportunity to write, I feel like I'm Picasso, and I put out masterpieces. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews, because it really does help the show, helps more people find OTB, plays with the algorithm, and of course, that helps us grow as a company as well, because OTB is one of our big pillars of Underground Sports. And of course, subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. What are you doing if you're not subscribed yet? Hit the like button, click the bell icon so you don't miss a single episode. You guys know we're on a schedule. Fridays in the morning, boom, OTB is in your subscription boxes on YouTube. Hit the like button, click the bell icon, comment down below, share it with your friends. Share the episodes. It really does go a long way. If you guys are watching on YouTube, helps us grow. And subscribe. We're not going to stop asking until you subscribe. So make sure you're subscribing. Thank you to our sponsors who make this show happen. Tomahawk Shades, the best small badge eyewear in the game. Go to tomahawkshades.com. Get those prescription lenses now. Tomahawk RX is live. TomahawkShades.com, promo code USP for 25% off your order. DJ, I did the math for our people that need the prescription lenses. Stephen McAvoy actually got a pair. He was rocking them the other night, showing them off to me. And, wild. It took a while for him to get there.
Okay.
because he did a pre-order for the prescription lenses. But I did the math for the people. The most expensive prescription frames, lenses, and everything, it's about $140. Use our code USP at checkout, 25% off. You get free shipping because of the price point that is. And it knocks it down to about $104 for prescription sunglasses, blue light glasses, all of them. They're all available. TomahawkShades.com. Promo code USP for 25% off your order from the homies at Tomahawk. Kenwood Beer. It's summer of Kenwood. Go to kenwoodbeer.com and use the Kenny tracker to see who's got Kenwood Beer on tap in the Philadelphia area. You got to be 21 or older to do so. And, of course, please drink responsibly. And Bino Board, they are stocking up with products left and right. New stuff almost every day. I'm getting the text alerts. I'm getting emails. BinoBoard.com really helps us out. Use our code BINHOUSP, BINHOUSP, for 10% off your order. It is like paper football meets foosball. Deej, we were playing on Father's Day. I brought the board out onto the patio table. Had a whole family just like, all right, who's playing on the table? Who's running the table? Myself, Sarah, Matt, OG, CFO, Margie. We were just playing Bino out on the back porch. It was great. That's what it is. It's the next big tabletop game. BinoBoard.com. They got the OTB bands colorway in stock. That teal is here. We need to get teal bands on the blackboard with the yellow ball. And we're rocking OTB colorway on that blackboard, Deej.
Can't
wait.
When I get around to getting one, it's going to be the OTB one. Teal.
It's going to be fuego.
I'm about to see if I can do something wild and get yellow bands and get a black ball. I think that would be sick.
Sweet.
Possibly get the logo in the middle because John Boy got their logo in the middle.
Yep, so you get the custom boards are available. You customize everything. They got a whole bunch of stuff on there. So BinoBoard.com, BINHO, and use our code BINHOUSP for 10% off your order. Deej, enough with the advertisements for the people. They're probably sick of us already and probably closed out of the episode. Let's recap Game 3 of the NLL Finals. The boys brought it home. And by the boys, I mean my prediction from 2019 of the Colorado Mammoth going to the NLL Finals. They cap it off in style and take home the trophy. The Colorado Mammoth are your 2021-2022 National Lacrosse League champions. They win 10-8 in Game 3. Back-to-back games holding that Buffalo Bandits offense to 8 goals. Zeddy ball game. That's why it's his nickname. 4 goals, 2 assists. Just an absolute menace in these last 2 games for the Mammoth. Stepping up in a big way. Dylan Ward sets a new NLL Finals record for most saves in a game with 55 saves. Hashtag trade Ward. Dylan Ward was trending on Twitter after Game 3, which was insane. Chris Wardle with 5 assists for the Mammoth. This was just an all-time series. No matter who you were rooting for, I know it hurts for the Buffalo fans. Back-to-back NLL Finals now that we've played, and they end up, on the losing end. But this was an all-time NLL Finals, and it's going to go down, in the record books as such. Couldn't be happier for the Mammoth boys. They overcame the odds. They were the underdogs in this. Everybody thought with this roster that Buffalo constructed from top to bottom, who's going to beat them? Had the best record in the league, and Colorado was just able to grind it out. They overcame adversity with Ryan Lee being out for a majority of the playoffs. They overcame adversity with Eli McLaughlin being out for Game 2. He comes back for Game 3. It was like the bat signal went up, and I gotta say, this is an impressive series win for the Mammoth. They get their first championship since 2006. They're now 2 for 2 in NLL Finals series. And, I mean, hats off to the Mammoth. They came, they saw, they conquered, and they, slayed the beast. They slayed Goliath.
Yeah, I mean, watching this game as it went on, kind of shortly into the third, I saw it getting away from Buffalo. Colorado was kind of picking up steam, and they were like, this is our chance. This is our championship. Buffalo's on the ropes. Let's just put it away. And they did an amazing job of closing out the game. But also, like we hinted at before the game, is going to come down to transition and taking control of the loose balls. And that's exactly what Colorado did. They got out. They scored transition goals. They picked up a lot of the loose balls. They played phenomenal defense. And, I mean, what can you say? When you have a guy like Dylan Ward step up after game one and play the way he did in 2 and 3, that's why he was given finals MVP and why they won the championship. I mean, everything we saw in game 3 is an embodiment of who the Colorado Mammoth were the entire year. And I think it's a big reason why they won, and they deserve it 100%. Does it suck for Buffalo? Yes, 1,000%. Those guys are not going to forget it. This PLL season is going to be crazy because of that, and I'm excited to see what that team does coming back again next year. And I think a lot of those guys from Buffalo are going to end up winning these regular season awards. So many of them were up for those awards, and I mean, deservingly so. When you're 14-4, you're going to be up for a lot of those awards. But when you play a team like Colorado in the playoffs and you do not bring your very best, you're going to lose.
Yeah, I mean, it was even at the stripe in this game, wildly enough. Both teams 11 for 22 at the stripe. Buffalo did capitalize on the power play. They went 1 for 2. Colorado went 0 for 1. And when you bring up the third quarter, that was the closest in terms of just like no scoring. Buffalo scored the only goal of the third quarter to draw it within 1. And then Colorado was able to put it away in that fourth quarter with 3 goals. Zed Williams with the cherry on top. Dylan Ward, friend of the program, NLL Finals MVP, rightfully so. You break a record as a goalie, it's tough to, not give you the MVP award. I was just thoroughly impressed overall by the way Colorado navigated through this series without, an MVP candidate, a legit MVP candidate on the ballot now, in Ryan Lee, to go out and do what they did was super impressive. This was like the perfect, ribbon on top of the present that was the return of the NLL this year. Couldn't have asked for a better, finals matchup. Couldn't have asked for a better way for this series to unfold. And, this season is going to be remembered as the season of the Mammoth. It was a Mammoth season. And, back-to-back NLL champions from the Western Conference now against Buffalo. And, I got to take my little subtle jab. The last 2 NLL champions, Deej, they follow us on Twitter. And they beat the Bandits. I'm just saying. There's a little podcast science rocking out west. But congratulations to the Colorado Mammoth. Very, very excited for them. Obviously I have my little connection with them from back in 2019. But it was very fun watching this series, and a perfect way to put the feather in the cap of the return of the NLL this year. Deej, your first full season taking in NLL content. I don't think you could have asked for a better year and a better finals performance. But what was the box game like for you? As a full blown just fan of the game and watching it for content.
Watching for content is like, and watching as someone who possibly had no idea what lacrosse was. It was very exciting. There was lots of action, very back and forth, lots of scoring. You could hear the music, you could see the fans. Like, it's very appealing to the eye, which I very much enjoy. Like, there aren't too many sports where you can see and hear exactly what's going on. And like you said beforehand, being able to watch a game, like you told me, it was basically a party. And that's what I envisioned those games were like without, being able to go to one. It looked like a party. And then watching as a player and, the other side of it, it was just a whole different world. It's like taking the field game, condensing it to this much smaller field inside on a much smaller net and playing, with very aggressive defense completely changes the game. And to see the way players play, how their mind changes, watching the guys who play in the PLL and the NLL and how their mind changes between the two games, how the games are different, but how they're similar. And I mean, just as much as I'm a defensive guy, the offensive prowess that I saw this year with some of the goals are unreal. It was just like, as much as I love a good defensive play, the goals in the NLL are so much better. I can watch a PLL game and watch the defensive plays and the hits and be more excited about those than I am the goals. Never the case in an NLL game. No matter what happens defensively, there's going to be a goal that outshines that. And I find that just phenomenal because, like, you don't see that in other sports. You know, if you're a defensive football player, no matter really what happens on the offensive side, you care more about what happened on the defensive side. And that's pretty much every sport except for the NLL. No matter what happens defensively, you're going to care more about what happened on the offensive side of the ball. It's just so electric, so fast, so much. Like, I can't even say aggression, just like brute force.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what I wish was more into the outdoor game. I wish there was more brute force in the outdoor game.
Yeah, I mean, it was such like I continue to say, but it was such a perfect return for the NLL this season. You know, first full season back since the Panorama shut down, and I mean, just an unreal year. You know, thinking back, like the season got underway, you know, training camp and everything in November, and then that first week of December was. You know, you had goosebumps going into it because it was like, wow, we're really back. We're on ESPN. Like, you know, I was back at the Wells Fargo Center for the first time since, you know, March 7th of 2020. Like, that was just such a surreal moment for me. And, you know, to see the way the season unfolded, it was a roller coaster of just so much fun, so much excitement, so many moments that we'll remember for a long, long time. And this season will go down as one of those, you know, memorable seasons for a number of reasons. So shout out to the Mammoth, shout out to the Bandits, and shout out to everybody, you know, who held it down this year in the NLL. Deej, should we talk about the NLL finalists for award season, or should we get into the protected rosters first?
Finalists, probably, because it won't take too long. You know, just hit on it real quick, and then I'm sure a few of the names we bring up in the finalists will segue right into protected rosters and how some of these guys feel out in the Twitterverse and NLL universe about why they were protected and not protected.
Yeah. So NLL Awards season is here. We're going to run through everything. The winners will be announced over the course of the week of June 27th, so next week coming up. Your MVP candidates. One of these was kind of a surprise to me, but it makes sense. But Dane Smith, obviously, you and I have talked about Dane being a front runner for much of the season, just for the numbers he was able to put up this year. Joe Resitardis, kind of our 1A MVP candidate. And then Matt Vince, also nominated as an MVP candidate. That was the one that I was like, oh, okay, cool. So those are your MVP candidates. We nailed the Rookie of the Year, brother. We got all three of these in our preseason predictions. Jeff T, Patrick Dodds, Reed Bowering, all very deserving. That one's one of the toughest ones, I think, to determine who's going to win it. We both think it will be Jeff T, but all three of those guys balled out this year and are very, very deserving of the Rookie of the Year this year. Goaltender of the Year, two pals and Matt Vince as well. Nick Rose nominated, future guest of this show. Friend of the program and NLL Finals MVP Dylan Ward, Goaltender of the Year nominee, and Matt Vince as well. Transition Player of the Year. We nailed this one too. Zach Currier, Reed Bowering, and friend of the program, Challen Rogers. Defensive Player of the Year, Steve Priolo, Kyle Rubish, and Mitch Desnue. It's kind of chalk right there for those three guys to be on this award ballot. Sportsmanship Award, which I can't remember if they've done this in the past. This was one that I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Keegan Ball, Dan Dawson, Lyle Thompson. Again, all very deserving. Teammate of the Year, Zach Currier, Jeff Shatler, Jeremy Thompson. The Les Bartley Award, which is the Head Coach of the Year. We nailed one of these at the very end in our preseason prediction. John Tavares, obviously head coach of the Buffalo Bandits. Matt Sawyer for the Toronto Rock. And our boy TK for Panther City. We threw that in there right at the end. We said, you know, it's an expansion team. You don't know what's going to happen. Very, very happy for TK to even be nominated here. I am kind of confused as to how Colorado's head coach is not nominated for head coach of the year, but I digress. Very happy for TK though, like so deserving the way that he was able to guide Panther City on that win streak. Keep them relevant up until the last week of the regular season was very, very cool to watch. And knowing TK from his time in Philadelphia was great to see. GM of the year, Jamie Dowick from the Toronto Rock, Steve Dietrich from the Buffalo Bandits, and Bob Hamley from Panther City. Executive of the year, Greg Bibb from Panther City, Jamie Dowick from the Toronto Rock, and another one of our guys, future guest of this show, Rich Lisk from DJ's New York Riptide, nominated for Executive of the Year. Very happy for Rich, one of the best in the game. And then the Tom Borelli Award for Media Person of the Year that hopefully one day DJ and I will be nominated for. But it is 3 very awesome people nominated, 3 friends of the program, 1 who has been on the program, and 2 who are going to be future guests as well. Jake Elliott, play-by-play for TSN Canada, ESPN+, the Vancouver Warriors, and the co-host of the Lacrosse Classified podcast for Lacrosse Flash, Tyson Geik, floor reporter for TSN Canada, ESPN+, the Halifax Thunderbirds, and Lacrosse Flash's founder. And then, friend of the program, Patty Gregoire, broadcast analyst for TSN, TSN Canada, ESPN+, the Halifax Thunderbirds, and co-host of the Off the Crossbar podcast. Congrats to those 3. That was the one that I was like looking forward to seeing who was nominated, because it's always people who are so deserving of the award. And those 3 in particular work their asses off all year round for NLL coverage. Couldn't be happier for them. And whoever walks away with that award is very, very deserving. So shout out to Jake, Tyson, and Pat. But those are our award nominees for NLL Awards season. Any surprises for the player awards from you, Deej?
No, not really. I was pretty, I wouldn't say chalk necessarily for all the awards, but it was like when looking at everyone, it was very like, okay, I see the case. The only one that for me, it's tough to have a 15-team league and dwindle down finalists for MVP to 3. That's tough in my opinion. So I think there's a lot of conversation that can be had for MVP considerations and who could have been possibly in the last spot for Matt Vince. But other than that, I feel like everybody had a very deserving story and a serious pull to win their award. Not saying Matt Vince doesn't have serious pull to win his award, but that's the only one that I see people having like a lot of conversation about, because the rest are, it's like, sure, you could plug, a few players in and out, but these 3 guys had probably the 3 best seasons at that award. So
also, when do the media members and stuff get to vote on these? Hello. But I think it is player voted for the awards. But
which I like.
I'm a fan of. The only thing I'm like not confused, but like was like surprised by was Matt Vince being in the MVP candidacy. Not that he doesn't deserve it. He's the best, one of the best goalies on the planet. It's just he also plays for the Bandits. Like, is that going to split votes between him and Dane? Like that was, and then he's obviously nominated for goaltender of the year, again, rightfully deserved. So in that sense, it's like, do you put him in the MVP nominee because he's nominated for goaltender of the year, and then you pull votes away from Dane potentially as teammates? Like, do those votes get split? Then it goes to somebody like Joe Restartis, which, again, rightfully deserved. I just thought Ryan Lee was going to be the 3rd nominee for MVP, and I don't know if it's because he got hurt, and I don't know how much the playoffs push into the award season for the NLL, but I thought it was going to be Ryan Lee as the 3rd MVP candidate.
Well, he was only like 24th or something like that in points, because those are like strictly regular season awards only. So like that is a big reason why. I don't think Vince being in MVP voting is going to be a huge deal. I think that kind of helps voters, because I think knowing that Vince is in goaltender of the year and will probably win goaltender of the year, that's kind of going to vacate him from MVP, which
Ryan Lee was actually 2nd in the league in points.
Okay, then yeah, he should have been.
He had more points than Restardis.
Yeah, then I agree that he should have been in. But like maybe it was really just to make it easier on voters because like most of them aren't going to vote for Vince for MVP. They're going to vote him for goaltender of the year because he's up for both. Might as well just give him goaltender of the year. So now it's just up between, Dane and Joe. That makes voting very easy. But then it's like, why do that and not put in Ryan Lee or, Tom Schreiber? List goes on of guys who had very good seasons this year that you could have gone with, but instead you went with.
Yeah, Ryan Lee finished with
Betts.
119 points this year, second to Dane Smith. Joe Restardis had 111. Jeff Teat, who missed a few games, had 108. Imagine if he played it that back-to-back. And Lyle Thompson had 102. So a number of 100-point seasons. I don't know if there's anybody else after Lyle with 100 points this year, but like that seems like one of those benchmarks where it's like, oh, I hit 300 in baseball, or I shot X amount, percent from the line this year. Let's see. Yeah, it was those guys, and then Keegan Ball and Josh Byrne both fell 1 point short of 100 this year. They both hit 99. Damn, that would drive me crazy if I was them. My OCD would be going nuts if I finished with 99 points in a season. But hey, to have 5 guys in your return to action this year with over 100 points is awesome to watch, and that just shows the trajectory of offense in the league, and that's an exciting time to be an NLL fan. So congrats to all the award nominees, and hopefully one day Deej and I will be nominated for the Tom Borelli Media Member of the Year award. Let's get into the protected rosters, though, as they drop today. As we record this, everybody losing their minds in the comment sections about players not being protected. Why aren't you protecting this player, this, that, and the third? Listen, guys, I've been covering the NLL for a little bit. I was confused about these rules at first, too, so you're not alone. But here's how it goes. A player's an unrestricted free agent in the NLL sometimes. And this is what that has to happen for them to hit that threshold. Their current contract had to have expired at the end of the current season that they're going into the offseason for. So in this case, the end of the 2021-22 season. They will be the age of 30 by December 31st, 2022. So by the end of the year, they're turning 30. And they have to have played at least 6 seasons in the NLL. If you hit all 3 of those benchmarks, you can become an unrestricted free agent, which is the case for a lot of players. A lot of people losing their minds. Why didn't we protect? The biggest one I saw was Kevin Crowley for the Wings. Guys, let me tell you something. Kevin Crowley loves playing in Philadelphia, having been around Big Cat since he came back to Philadelphia in 2018, 2019. He loves this city. He has a house here. He loves playing in Philadelphia. There's a reason why he made a adamant effort to get traded back here from New England at the time. He's not going anywhere. The reason that they don't protect them is because you still have guys that are under contract, that are younger, that you don't want to lose to Las Vegas in this expansion draft. Kevin Crowley, as the example here, could get taken by Las Vegas in the expansion draft. But because he's an unrestricted free agent come August 1st, he still has the right to sign with any team he chooses, which means he can still come back to the Wings and sign with the Wings. We've seen this a number of times with guys getting taken in the expansion draft or expansion draft teams passing over a player because they know they're not going to sign with them. So, pump the brakes a little bit. We've seen some... I explained this to Diggs earlier because I personally didn't know Frank Chiliano hit the threshold of being an unrestricted free agent. I thought in my mind he was just younger. But another situation, Frank Chiliano not protected by the Seals because he's an unrestricted free agent. So there's a number of those. They're all on the NLL website. But the expansion draft protected rosters have dropped. I'm going to run through these, Deej. You tell me if, it seems normal, chalk to you, or if you feel like somebody's missing from these rosters. We'll start with our friends in Albany. They protected the following players: Andrew Q, Charlie Kitchen, Riley O'Connor, Jacob Rouet, Joe Resitardis, who is an unrestricted free agent, Adam Bomberry, Tony Malcolm, Joe Nardella, Nick Chakowski, Colton Watkinson, and Big Dougie Jameson. They seemed very chalk to me for the most part.
Was Charlie Kitchen on that list?
Yes.
Okay. That was like the one name I couldn't remember if I heard or not. That seems chalk. I'm not
The lone name that's
surprised.
not on there is Ryan Benesh, who is an unrestricted free agent who can decline the franchise tag. So he's just a free agent. We'll see what happens with him. But he's the only one that probably stuck out to Albany fans of like, why is he not on the protected roster? He's over the age of 34, can reject the franchise tag. The man can do what he wants. He's put in his time.
And I mean, it doesn't surprise me too much. They just got him in the trade from Panther City. So he's kind of a floating piece per se. And he's kind of at that moment in a career where he can decide what's best for him next and go with that. So it doesn't surprise me. It may surprise others, but does not surprise me.
The Eastern Conference champions, the Buffalo Bandits, protected Josh Byrne, Chris Kluche, Chase Frazier, Tahoka Nanticoke, Dane Smith, who is an unrestricted free agent, Ian McKay, Justin Martin, Steve Priolo, Bryce Sweeting, Matt Vince, who is an unrestricted free agent and can reject the franchise tag. Anything stand out to you here? I think Nick Weiss might be the only one, but
do they really hurt?
You're obviously protecting Steve Priolo over him, in my opinion.
Yeah,
that's no slight to Nick Weiss, but
who do you lose? Do you per se lose anything losing?
And Max Adler unprotected as well, but the
again,
guys they have there, transition guys get classified as defensemen. You're going to protect the defenseman that you protected there if you're Buffalo.
Yeah, and they have Chase Frazier who can go back to taking face and who was still taking face, here and there when Max was there. So
yeah,
it's not a huge loss if they lose Max, and maybe that's good for Max too, possibly. I mean, I doubt it. I think that they'll.
I still think Max will still.
Oh, I think he'll end up. I think he'll end up going back because I just don't see them really breaking up that Buffalo core that's there with the Chaos guys. So no surprises.
The longest reigning defending champs, no longer the Calgary Roughnecks. Tanner Cook, Hayden Dixon, Jesse King, Tyler Pace, Reese Callies, Zach Courier, Justin Inacio, Liam LeClaire, Harrison Matsuoka, Eli Salama, Shane Simpson, Christian Del Bianco. Obviously, Curtis Dixon not on that list because he is an unrestricted free agent who can refuse the franchise tag. These were all very chalk to me. This is like Calgary's core. Didn't surprise me one bit with all the guys protected there. I am very excited to see Justin Inacio play for them next year, though. The champion Colorado Mammoth. Tyson Gibson, Ryan Lee, Eli McLaughlin, Connor Robinson, Zed Williams, Joey Capito, Tim Edwards, Jordan Gillies, Robert Hope, who's an unrestricted free agent, Warren Jeffrey, Dylan Ward.
Nobody jumps out.
That's their core, in my opinion.
Yeah. I feel like there may
Capito does get protected this year, though. He didn't get protected last year, which was interesting.
Right. I feel like there may be a name or two out there that, like, gets
Anthony Joachim, maybe, because they traded for him, but...
Yeah, that might get picked up in the draft that I go, like, oh, yeah, they didn't protect him. That's tough. But, like, right now, there's nothing that, like, I can think of, especially because they were just playing, that they lose from that championship roster.
Yeah. The Georgia Swarm. Brendan Bomberry, Shane Jackson, Ryan Lanchberry, Lyle Thompson, Brian Cole, TJ Camizio, Jeff Henrick, Jordan McIntosh, who's an unrestricted free agent, Kaysen Tarbell, Chad Tutton, who's an unrestricted free agent, Adam Weideman, and Craig Wendy. Obviously, Mike Poulin not protected. He's an unrestricted free agent who can refuse the franchise tag. And they went through this same song and dance with him last free agency where he signed late. So that kind of checked out for me there. I think Stephen LeBlanc also unrestricted free agent who can deny the franchise tag if I'm not mistaken. They traded for him obviously during the season, but for Georgia, I think that's kind of your core. Miles Thompson also not protected, but he just came back this year. I'm not mad about what Georgia did there.
No, not at all. I think it was very smart on their end. Took guys that are going to help them in the future. And I mean, not protecting your goalie, in my opinion, is one of the smarter things you can do in these terms. Most goalies are older in the league.
Unless you have a franchise guy like Dylan Ward or something like that. Or
Yeah,
Zach Higgins for the Wings in
but
that
I mean,
situation.
even though at this point, a lot of those guys are older and can, just sign where they want. So, go ahead and waste that protected pick and go get someone else that people feel shouldn't be protected over that, because that guy's going to come back and sign. This is definitely one of those scenarios. Poulin's going to sign where he wants. Don't
Which
protect.
will be Georgia.
Yeah.
And it'll probably be, 3 months into free agency. The Halifax Thunderbirds. This one's a fun one, Deej, because they did shake up their roster a bunch this season. Chris Boucher, Eric Fennell, Clark Peterson, Austin Shanks. Those are the only 4 forwards protected. Colton Armstrong, Tyson Bell, Graham Hosick, Trevor Smith, Ryan Tarafanko, Nankon Thompson, Jake Withers, Warren Hill. Cody Jamieson, obviously, unrestricted free agent who can refuse the franchise tag. Same thing with Sean Evans. 4 forwards, though. It's pretty interesting.
Well, after some of the moves and stuff they made,
It's a lot of older guys.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, per se, if there's only 4 forwards, because it's like, I think they have draft ideas or trade
Cody
ideas.
Jamieson will be back.
And yeah, a couple of those older guys that they didn't protect will be back. So I'm interested to see where that offense is going after the moves they made last year, and if
they fell off a cliff.
Yeah, and if it's trade ideas or if it's draft ideas, and how well they work out.
Your New York Riptide. Jake Fox, Connor Kiernan, Larson Sundown, Jeff Teat, Andrew Borgatti, Scott Dominy, Ron John, Matt Marinier, Brent Noseworthy, Daryl Robertson, Leo Storos, and Steve Orleman.
Surprised by Noseworthy.
I like it because he's young. They traded for him at the deadline this year. I think he's somebody that they want to incorporate as a core piece of that defense, because that's kind of been their biggest issue since they've come into the league. Like, the offense is there. They need to just, build that defensive core. And I think getting Ron John, getting Noseworthy in there, Leo Storos and Scott Dominy and Borgatti is kind of, veteran presence there. And then Matt Marinier with his big body, 6 foot gazillion. I like what they did here. And obviously Callum Crawford is an unrestricted free agent and can deny the franchise tag, but I believe he'll be back with New York. I'd be shocked if he's not. I like this core for the Riptide, though. It's a very fun core that they're building, and they're finally you're starting to see the puzzle come together.
Yeah, they're definitely making the right moves. It's not a bad move to protect Noseworthy here. I just don't see a team like Vegas going after a guy like Noseworthy, so I probably would have.
Oh, I do.
Protected
just because he's
else.
Young.
I could see the young thing, but it's like I don't know. Like, I don't know. I guess can't really say right now because they haven't started doing anything. I just don't know what they want to put together. But already in my mind, I have a feeling Noseworthy is not a part of it.
I like it for them, and I think it's one of those things where just because they traded for him, they want him there, and they don't want to risk losing him. So I'm cool with it. Panther City. Phil Caputo, Patrick Dodds, Jonathan Donville, Nathan Grennan, Will Malcolm, Randy Stotts, Liam Burns, Pat Foley, Matthew Hosick, Josh Medeiros, Liam Patton, Connor Sellers, Nick Damute. I think that's pretty chalk across the board for them. Very excited to see Randy Stotts play for them next year. Panther City's going to be fun. I'm excited for them in the draft, too, to see what they end up doing. Here's the fun one. My Philadelphia Wings. Kyle Jackson, Sam LeClaire. Already a dub there. You're protecting 2 guys that you got via trade-in for free in KJ47. They are protected. Ben McIntosh, Matt Rambo, Blaze Reardon. Boom. I'm happy. Those 5 guys being protected, that's a core. Obviously, the Wings have a lot of older pieces that are unrestricted free agents, like Kevin Crowley, Corey Vitarelli, Corey Small. They're all unrestricted free agents. I expect most, if not all of them, to be back, though. I think the only one I could see not coming back is Vitdog. But I expect Crowley and Corey Small to be back. Defensively, Trevor Baptiste, Steph Charbonneau, Kyle Matisse, who's an unrestricted free agent, but I don't see Kyle going anywhere. Alex Pace, Ryan Wagner, Zach Higgins. That's the Wings core right there. That's what you're building around and just trying to get the pieces around. And I think this shows the moves that they made at the trade deadline making sense now.
Yeah,
they were more future moves.
Yeah, I don't see anything that surprised. Like, they didn't go and not protect Kyle Jackson or, like, anybody they went and got. There's no one on this list, really, even on any of these teams so far, that's like blowing my mind that isn't protected. So I'm amazed at all of the talk that I've seen so far, because it seems pretty cookie cutter.
I think going back to Buffalo, Connor Fields might be one, but I think Connor's going to be back.
Now that you bring that up, yeah, he's probably going to get picked up. How do you not?
I'd be shocked if he doesn't.
How do you not pick up a guy like Connor Fields? I mean,
he's a face of a franchise in Vegas.
Yeah, and maybe that's exactly what he needs.
The Rochester Nighthawks, Charlie Bertrand, Holden Catoni, Thomas Hogarth, Curtis Knight, who's an unrestricted free agent, Ryan Smith, Dan Coates, Matt Gilray, Corey Highfield, Ryland Reese, Thomas Whitty, Rylan Hartley. Obviously, our boy, Phil Dawson, old man Phil, unrestricted free agent, can deny the franchise tag. This one, pretty plain, cut and dry. Evan Kirk, also unrestricted free agent, who can deny the franchise tag. So,
I'm interested to see my only thing with them is Evan Kirk and what's happening with his scenario, if he's going to come back or not. Absolutely no concern about the Dawes man. I'm almost positive he's going to return to Rochester.
Yeah.
The question is, does he actually return to Rochester to play again next year? And how long does he keep returning to Rochester to play?
I'll tell you what, I'd love him in Philadelphia again.
Yeah, hang it up, buddy.
San Diego Seals, Wes Berg, Casey Jackson, Trey LeClaire, Mac O'Keefe, Austin Stotts, Drew Belgrave, Eli Gobrecht, Cam Holding, Mike McCannell, Patrick Shumay, Chris Orglieri. They have a lot of guys that are also unrestricted free agents. Dane Doby, Brett Hickey. I very much could see Brett Hickey going to Vegas. And I think that's why Paul Day traded him. We'll see what happens with Dane Doby. But I think if you're the Seals, you can't complain about all this. And obviously Brody Merrill as well, unrestricted free agent, can deny the franchise tag. But I would expect Brody to be back with his brother.
Yeah, that I don't see anything wrong with this. Big question mark is obviously Dane. Does he want to jump ship again and reset and start, quote unquote, start over with another offense, or does he want to try and stick it out with San Diego, especially after supposedly supposed to be the best offense in the league and they kind of flopped and had an underwhelming season? Does that drive him to return to San Diego to try again, or does he say, peace, I'm going to try with, a group of fresh young guys? So that's my big question mark with San Diego. Brett Hickey getting traded, middle of the season, trying to find his spot in that offense. Wouldn't be surprising to see him get picked up and move on and flourish with a new team. So really just Dane Doby and what happens there could determine really what happens with San Diego and Vegas next year.
I think Dane is back in San Diego. If I had to put a bet on it, I think he goes back for at least one more year. The Saskatchewan Rush, looking for a new coach going into this year too. So that'll be an interesting wrinkle into all of this as well. Robert Church, Ryan Keenan, Mark Matthews, Marshall Powless, Ryan Barnable, Matt Beers, Jake Boudreau, Ryan Dilks, who's an unrestricted free agent, Holden Garland, Bobby Kidd, kid, Connor McClellan, Mike Messenger, no goalie protected for the Rush.
I mean, is anybody going to go after their goalies?
The only thing I'll say, because I was surprised to see it, was one of their goalies, if I can pull it up here, led the league in goals against average, I want to say it was, when I was looking at Ryan Lee's stats. Goals against average and save percentage. Cameron Dunkerley led the league with a save percentage of .816 and a goals against average of 8.85.
And how many games and how many shots?
I got to see when he took over, but for him to qualify, to be on the list at least, he played in... Oh, this... Don't cheap us out. Don't do this, NLL. What are we doing? All right. I take that back. The fact that he's shown there is very misleading. He played in one game.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, that should not be there. You gotta show the people that qualify. But nonetheless, first team without a goalie protected, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So that's interesting. See how they approach the goalie position. If they draft somebody, if they continue to move forward with any of those guys, if they don't get picked up, because obviously goalies are everything in the NLL. So we'll see what happens there. The next one, because I believe their goalie is an unrestricted free agent for the first time. Nick Rose not protected by Toronto. Dan Craig, Rob Hellier, Zach Mans, Tom Schreiber, Jamison Dilks, Latrell Harris, T.D. Ireland, Josh Jubenville, Brad Cree, Phil Mazuka, Challen Rogers, Mitch Disnew. Mitch Disnew, an unrestricted free agent, by the way.
That's what I thought, which I thought they might have used that on someone else, but now I'm trying to think of someone else for them to use it on. There's not really anyone coming to mind, so not surprised. Maybe Nick Rose, because, I mean, what do you lose having Disnew go? Per se, because
I think Mitch is going to be back. I think that was one of those things where it's like,
yeah, that too. He fit into their system well.
Coming from
Buffalo, even if he does leave, you don't really lose anything in that right. But also at the same time, it was kind of a coin flip because I don't think Nick Rose leaves Toronto either, so not protecting either one of them doesn't really hurt you. So,
I think the biggest interesting ones, Brandon Slade, not protected for Toronto, and oddly enough, listed on their restricted and unrestricted free agent roster, DJ, PR99. Because Toronto still has his rights.
Is he about to pop out next year? Question mark?
The ever-long question.
President of the PLL misses the first 3 weeks due to playing in the NLL Finals.
The final roster here, the Vancouver Warriors. Keegan Ball, Adam Charlambides, Kyle Killen, Ryan Martell, Mitch Jones, Owen Barker, Reed Bowering, Brandon Goodwin, Anthony Kalinich, Taylor Stewart, and Alex Bouquet, who is an unrestricted free agent. Logan Schuss, not protected. He's an unrestricted free agent. Anybody else here? Riley Lowen, Kyle Killen. Riley Lowen's an unrestricted free agent. Few guys on Vancouver's roster that are interesting, but I think they, for the most part, nailed it with their protected guys. Looking through everybody else, I don't think there's really too many other guys that stand out that aren't, unrestricted free agents or anything like that. Did Rochester not protect? Here's one. Rochester did not protect Turner Evans.
Yeah. There's got to be a reason.
Could be a guy that ends up going, though. I would not be shocked.
I definitely believe he'll end up going.
So, Going to be a very interesting next couple weeks, seeing how Las Vegas gets down with the expansion draft. And Deej, it's been award season, a long NLL season, and we're going to do something that we have not done on this show in the history of OTB. You and I were talking this week, and we feel like it makes sense. We're going to do this for the PLL as well when the season ends. But coming soon, the inaugural NLL All-OTB team. DJ and I are going to sit down, work on who we think deserves All-OTB honors as the very first All-OTB team for the 2021-2022 NLL season. We'll have more information for you guys next week, and we'll announce the roster on an upcoming episode, but we wanted to let you guys know the inaugural NLL All-OTB team will be listed. It will be put in the record books. It will include players. It will include a coach or two, depending if we end up doing a first team and a second team. We're still figuring all that out, but we are doing the All-OTB team, and I'm very excited about this.
Something we have not talked about that could make this a little more fun is, do we add a media team?
That could be interesting.
Play-by-play color sideline. I mean,
or do we just give our own media person of the year?
That's true. We could just do one.
Because there are a number of them that weren't even nominated for the NLL one. So we're gonna crunch the numbies, do a whole thing here, and we'll have our All-OTB team announced on a future episode in the very near future, probably during the break of PLL in a couple weeks when there's no games going on and everything like that. But the All-OTB teams are coming. Let's get into PLL Long Island, Deej. We had a nice, fun weekend on the island. And by fun, I mean the most hectic weekend on Long Island of all time. Your boy had an extra 2.5 hours added onto his commute due to traffic. And come to find out, DJ, last week on Long Island was the biggest invitational travel team lacrosse tournament showcase on the East Coast. I was talking to good friend Eric Minio. He said every open field on Long Island last weekend was occupied. But not only that, we obviously had Hampton's traffic because it was a nice summer weekend, and across the street from Hofstra University, there was a high school graduation going on Friday night.
Oh,
talk about the most absurd weekend to have this. And before we dive into just recapping the games, I want to propose this to you and to our listeners and potentially to the PLL Board of Advisors. I personally think it makes sense for the PLL to obviously go to Long Island for one of their weekends. Obviously, it being one of the biggest, if not the biggest hotbed on the East Coast, it makes sense to go to Long Island. Here's my thing. Long Island has the most ridiculous traffic in the summertime. It is a place where summer lacrosse is going on a shit ton during the season. The season being the PLL season. And I think you have opportunities during the regular season for the PLL while you're on this travel model to hit other markets where you want to grow the game. Obviously, Long Island's an established place and you want to be there. Tell me if I sound crazy for saying this. You and I both agree Philadelphia is like a mainstay of the PLL playoffs. No matter what weekend it is, Philly's like a playoff spot. So that's firmly entrenched. DC kind of making its way into that conversation, I would say. But you could, alternate. I am proposing that Long Island be a staple only for the playoffs for the PLL. It's a hotbed. I was talking to people from Long Island, and they said, nobody cares about football here. I was like, yeah, nobody's a Jets fan. He's like, exactly. We don't care about football. Kids are kind of back in school. Summer lacrosse is over, so it's out of season. It's one big giant day, and you're telling me people from Long Island are not going to go out in droves to go catch the PLL? I think PLL Long Island needs to be firmly entrenched, stapled in to the playoff rotation schedule, and no longer be a regular season spot.
I agree. Because, I mean, like you said, there's so many other spots you can go during the regular season um, that you can, use that opportunity to grow the game. Like, I think there should be a hotbed for the very first week of the season, the last week of the regular season, and then all of the playoffs. Because there's about 4 or 5
Yeah.
hotbeds. That's perfect. Everything in between should be growing spots. So
outside of Homewood. I think Homewood's an established regular season spot just because of the attendance capacity.
Well, that's what I mean. It can be one of those opening weekend or
like the mid-season spot,
or even mid-season, like which is
fine. Like how it is this year. I like that Homewood's week 4.
Yeah, that's cool. Like have and Albany was 1. Like that's fine, and have one more for week 10, and then the 3 for playoffs. The playoffs is perfect. Even if you consider DC to be a hotbed now, like that's perfect, and then you can go to the Midwest more often. You can get out to Seattle and LA or California. There's so many Florida. There's so many places we can go to grow the game, but we halt to go to Albany and Long Island and Connecticut and all these places
Maryland,
over and
Philly.
over. Yeah, over and over every year during the regular season when we could just push that off to when we know people will go.
I think Long Island needs to either be the quarterfinals or the semifinals, like every year. Potentially make it a championship seat like spot once every couple of years. But I think Long Island needs to be rescheduled, moving forward to being a playoff spot. There's going to be less traffic because it's summertime coming to an end. So you're not going to have the Hamptons and the beach traffic and everything. Travel lacrosse season will be over. It'll be much easier and much more accessible for people to get there. Plus, you're not limiting it, but you're making it like, oh, you got to come. It's the playoffs. It's high energy. It's, high intensity. And this is your opportunity to come see, the best of the best, winner goes home type situation on Long Island. Like, I think Long Island needs to become a playoff spot for the PLL. So, good friend of this program, Mike Rabel, if you're listening, I would love to chat with you about this because apparently I was not the only one who had issues getting to Long Island this weekend. It was a nightmare, dude. I was going through cities that looked like they were in a movie. I was like, this place is not real that I'm in right now. Also, bus drivers, I thought they were bad here. They are the most indecisive drivers on Long Island ever. I have not screamed so much in my car. Granted, my air conditioning broke before I left the state of New Jersey after I had gotten it allegedly fixed the Tuesday before Long Island. The feeling I had when I got out of my car, when I parked right next to the lovely Warner family, Ty Warner's parents, tailgating. Mr. Warner helped me back out of my spot because there was so many people in the parking lot tailgating afterwards from Ty's family. He was like guiding me out of my spot and like making sure I was good. So thank you to Mr. Warner. But when I got out of my car, it felt like when you go to the beach and you're laying out in the sun all day, you get a little sunburnt and you feel a little dehydrated and like you're just like, you feel drained, and then you walk into that air conditioning for the first time and you feel the exhaustion overcome your body. That is what I felt like, but I was in a vehicle. I was not laying out in the sun. I was not getting tan. I was not getting sunburnt. I was in a motor vehicle and felt that way when I got out of my car. I was dehydrated. It was ridiculous. And you're like, Kyle, why don't you drink water? My water got hot because it was hot as hell on Friday and I had no air conditioning. So that was my traveling to Long Island on Friday. But we had PLL Long Island go down. It was an electric weekend. Tons of people in the house. A bunch of New York Islanders players were there. Obviously, the Hall of Fame induction happened on ABC, which was the largest professional field lacrosse game viewed on television ever now. But Deej, to recap, we had a absolute shootout involving the Water Dogs once again on Long Island. They lose to Chrome 17-14. That game was amazing. Whipsnakes put on a defensive masterclass and beat Atlas 12-9. The Archers obliterated Cannons 20-9. And then the Woods got rolling for the first time this year. They beat Chaos 11-7. And your standings look like this. Chrome leading the way in first place, 3-0 with a score differential of 13. Whipsnakes 3-0 as well in second place with a score differential of 5. Archers at 2-1 with a score differential of 15, the best score differential in the league. Atlas at 2-1 with a score differential of 11. Redwoods sitting in fifth place, so just outside that off-season championship series tournament. They are 1-2 with a score differential of -11, the worst in the league still. Or I'm sorry, not the worst in the league. The next team is worse in the league, and that is Cannons, 1-2 with a -13 score differential. And then Water Dogs and Chaos, both 0-3. They will meet each other this weekend, both with a -10 score differential. Any takeaways from Long Island that stood out to you, or anything that kind of surprised you?
Obviously, it was amazing to watch Chaos Woods slowly becoming a rivalry every year. It's a good game every time they play. It was nice to see the offense wake up, but it's always a tough game to watch because I like both teams so much. Tough game to pick. But that was obviously best game for me of the weekend. Archer's offense was explosive.
Without Grant again.
Yeah. So, only worried to see what they're going to do when he does come back, or really worried to see if they fall at all. Because, putting a player of Grant's caliber back into the lineup, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to soar and, ride off the momentum you're on, or you're going to completely crash because everything gets switched up. So that was kind of my big note from there is they've looked so good without him is I'm wondering what they're going to look like when he comes back. I always blank on I'm the worst person. I watch and then I blank on who's in the league. I get through two games and I'm
Whips Atlas
who are the other four?
If you're going in the reverse order you've gone in, Whips Atlas is next.
I do this all the time. I'm yeah, this game. Who are the other four teams in the league? Because I completely forgot. Oh, Whips Atlas is everything I thought it was going to be. Phenomenal game. Just couldn't believe Atlas kind of just lost traction on the offensive side. They looked very lost and very something I didn't think would happen. They almost looked shell-shocked.
I'll say this. Ben Rubio brought up a very interesting point in the press conference. He said that he felt like this game was their worst in terms of substitutions. So that's something as a coaching staff they're going to work to clean up going into this week. Because he said when you play Whipsnakes, they substitute almost seamlessly and flawlessly. And he said he felt like they did a poor job of substituting, which is more on the coaching staff than the players.
Which is an interesting point. Danny Logan is an all-star, though. I will say that much. That's unreal.
He's unreal. Unreal.
I'm penciling him as a repeat as of right now for Hard Hat Award. Guys.
Oh, yeah. 100%. He's been ridiculous. And then Chrome Water Dogs was just guns blazing on both sides.
Yeah. That was Jack Hanna's goal. Or what did he have? 6? 4? 5? 4? 4?
I'll pull it up here.
He had a really good game. I can't remember if it was this week.
Jack Hanna had one. Kieran McCardle had himself a game, had 7 points.
That was who it was. He had a really good
Which,
game.
did you see Kieran is having a baby, and did you see the Instagram caption?
No.
This is going to make you love Kieran even more than you already do. It is an electric caption and just hilarious. So it's a picture of he and his wife on their wedding day and then a whole photo collage and everything. Caption is, "Happy birthday to my soon-to-be MILF. I love you and can't wait to see you be a mom to our baby girl."
Yes! That's like the exact words I would put on something like
That
that.
is elementary school teacher and pro lacrosse player, and hopefully future guest of this show, Kieran McCardle, wishing a happy birthday to his wife.
Yes. I can't remember if Jack Hanna's goal was last week or this week.
He did have a goal this week.
No, the one that like everybody lost their minds about because it sounded like
Last week, I think.
it sounded like a lightning bolt hit the net.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus. Doof. I was like, oh my.
Yeah. That was
Like,
last week.
Somebody's knocking on my door.
I will say, shout out to Zach Tucci. He held his own against Connor Farrell. That was impressive to me and really helped keep the Water Dogs in that game. Chrome are a wagon, as you can see. Our preseason prediction of them being a potential playoff team. We protected them to go 5-5. They're already 3-0, which is amazing to watch. Like, I couldn't be happier for them. They've been through the ringer. I've been talking to people, and they were like, yeah, Chrome were like the laughing stock of the league. They barely had fans, and now look at them. It's like, you know, an NBA team that was in the tank. Like, you look at like teams like OKC right now, you look at, you know, Process Sixers, you look at the Rockets right now where they accumulated all these picks, they accumulated all these players, and boom, skyrocket. And I'll even say this, after tonight especially, your Detroit Pistons.
Thank you. I was waiting for it. I'm like, you talking about all these other teams.
Because at first when you did that, I was like, Deej, the Lakers are not that good.
No, I'm not worried about the Lakers right now. I am like rejuvenating my Pistons fanship. Like, we are back in early 2000 mode right now. It's all about Detroit basketball. Like, bro, we are there.
So I have to start blasting D12. But I'm very pumped for Chrome. Like, they just look like they're having a blast out there. I'm fully ready to dub Brendan Nickturn the Rocket Raccoon to Logan Wisnowski's Groot, because those two play off of each other so well, and I love Brendan Nichturn's just like fucking fuck you energy. Like, he goes out there and when he scores, he celebrates like no other. It's so fun to watch. I was very impressed by the teams that won. The teams that lost this week, again, I'll chalk chaos up to not having their guys. It was, you know, one of those things. Cannons, yikes. Don't know what they have to do to play a full 60 or full 48, but you know what I mean. They just looked outclassed offensively, and it wasn't because they were losing faceoffs. Bones went like 66% from the stripe and scored 2 goals, and they still got worked by an Archer's offense that's insane. And we said that going into the year, that their defense was a little sus. Atlas just looked, like you said, shell-shocked. And I said it last week during our pick segment, they hadn't faced a defense like this Whipsnakes defense yet this season, and we'll see what will happen. And for all intents and purposes, Chris Gray hit a buzzer beater, almost 2-pointer at the end of the game to make it 12-9. So it was 12-7 for most of the end of that game. But yeah, very exciting weekend. Long Island was a blast. The crowd was great, and RJ's vlog was like 20 some odd minutes. We got the Hall of Fame inductions, which was awesome to see. And there's a bunch of guys that look like they're just hashtag back. Channy's looking great. Connor Farrell's looking great. Redwoods, are they hashtag back? We'll see. Need to see some consistency. John Sexton's back this week as we head into Baltimore. I'll say this, though. I was not happy about who they cut to bring Sexy Sexton back. Clark Peterson sent to the player pool. You guys know I'm a massive Clark Peterson stan. I think he's a great fit on this offense and our only off-ball guy. I just don't understand the logic that's there. I mean, I trust Nat as a coach. I know what he's doing. But man, Clarky's just getting a raw deal every single time with this fucking team.
Yeah, it's tough for Clark, and my rife with it, as you know, is it's very hard to be successful in this league without an inside threat. and with Ryan Lee still out as far as we know with injury, we just got rid of arguably the Woods' best
And only.
inside, really only inside threat, unless they're going to convert Joe Robertson into an inside threat or move Rob Pennell inside. We do not have an inside threat, which is, I don't know if they're going to go with, what they went with last week, which worked, which was a lot of just pure, I'm going to dodge hard, we're going to move the ball and just take the open shots. If that's what they're going to do, okay, make it work. I personally don't like it, but John Sexton is a very important piece to have back. I think that's going to help the defense out a lot.
I think having Perk back last week helped so many people. And I know we were debating whether or not that was going to hurt them. And obviously it hurt them in Charlotte. Him being back was so vital. And obviously he wasn't on the score sheet, but I think his presence alone, being back on the field for Redwoods last week, you could see the value that he has. And it helped Miles. It helped RP3. I think this is one of Rob's best games in a Redwoods jersey that we've seen. Ryder Garnsey stepped up both on the field and in the huddle. He showed a lot of leadership in that game with his Blastoise-dyed head, which is fucking awesome. I think Cav had a much better game. And I think what Rob said in the press conference after Charlotte, like, guys having accountability during the week and putting, the reps in during the week, I think that was said to some people during the week. So shout out to RP3, like putting, being captain accountability and making guys realize, hey, this doesn't just come together on Friday and Saturday. Like, you need to show up and put the reps in during the week and actually focus and do what you need to do so that when game day is here, you're playing at your best.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. Like I tell my kids when I'm coaching, we practice is our work. We go to work all day, every week, work hard so that we get paid on game day. Game day is our payday. We go out, we put on another jersey, and we beat up another team and we win. We payday after we've worked all week. If you don't work all week, you don't get paid. That's how that works in the real world. That's how it works in lacrosse. You don't put in your reps and you don't work during the week, you lose your game and you don't get paid.
Big facts. Shout out to RP3. I was very impressed by the way he played. And if we get more of that, that's where the Woods offense rolls. And I think it helped that Ryder stepped up. Like, having Ryder do what he did was like a balancing act for Rob and Ryder, and those two playing well. And Cav actually, making his passes. Those guys actually were catching balls this past week, and it showed. That was the best this Woods team has looked all year. And as much as you're not a big fan, I gotta give props when they're due. Garrett Epple had a fucking great game.
Yeah. I mean, there's guys in other sports that I don't necessarily like, but I give props when props are necessary. Garrett Epple balled out this weekend. Was a big part of why the defense was able to hold quote unquote makeshift chaos offense to 7. Those guys were still great and still, hung in there with Whip Snakes and a couple other really good teams earlier this year. So no slight to chaos, but I mean, Epple came out and dominated in a game where the Woods needed to go out and dominate.
Let's get into these matchups. Quick little matchup previews before we get into our picks. Another installment into the storied PLL rivalry. Homewood Field, kicking off 6:30 p.m. Woods Whips, just another installment in the storybook. I'm excited to see how these two teams match up. Obviously, Whip Snakes had their best performance on Long Island, as did Redwoods. Zeddy ball game coming back for this is just, typical Whip Snake stuff, getting the guys back together. But John Sexton being back, I think, is huge, because I think him being out has been a massive reason why TD has struggled. On top of TD playing a full NLL season for the first time in his career, I think Sexton being out off the wings there has hurt TD's game a bit. and why he's gotten off to this slow start, because he's used to having that trust tree factor with Sexton there. No pun intended with tree. But I think him being back is going to be big. And this is just another, let's see how this plays out. Woods Whips is always a movie. And now we get to do it at Homewood.
Yeah, this one I'm excited for, because one thing that I like about this Woods team is playing Chaos and Whip Snakes. You get the very best of the Redwoods. So I think this is the very best thing that could have happened for the Redwoods at this point in time in the season. They were at a point where they needed to start winning games, or they would be in some trouble. And to play Chaos and then play the Whips right after, you're at a point where you could possibly play your two very best games of the year right next to each other, win 2 in a row, and ride some good momentum into what is considered an easier part of your schedule. There's no real easy game in this league, but after you play Chaos and Whips back to back, your schedule doesn't really get much harder than that. So, if you can win these 2 games, you're looking to make a good push and turn around not only that score differential, but the record, and get into those playoffs.
Yeah, and I think
Redwoods, they're in them now, but
Redwoods winning last week against Chaos was the bigger portion of this. You get that stress and that tension off your shoulders now. You're going to be able to go out there and play a lot more loose, play a lot more light on your feet. I think them getting that first win out of the way now is huge. And I think Whip Snakes are playing with a lot of momentum too, so that's good for them. If you're a Whips fan, you're going into this, you're 3-0, and quite frankly, we haven't seen them play their best version of Whip Snakes ball outside of last week. I think more so defensively than offensively. They still haven't put up monster numbers on the offense that we've seen from them in the past. They've been playing well, but they've been playing a beatable style of offense where their defense has really kept them in this, and Kyle Bernlohr is being, Kyle Bernlohr as we know him has been huge. So that's going to be, a fun matchup, and I think it all boils down to TD versus Joe at the stripe to see who gets those possessions, see who gets those ground balls, and see who, dominates that wing play now that Sexton's back. I think that'll be the biggest, key to victory here is the stripe.
I would love to see the Woods double pull the stripe at some points. Get Ryan Kennedy up there, or possibly Finn Sullivan, Arden Cohen, running up on the opposite wing of John Sexton.
Running up that hill.
There's also that. Hopefully they don't see a grandfather clock out there. But yeah, I think that'll help TD in some very clutch scenarios where the Woods need a ground ball. It might be very helpful to slide up another pole and drop Jack near or Ida back down low with the D. So I'll be looking out for that. But stripe's going to be huge, but also just I think defensive turnovers in transition. Whoever can get some ground balls and get a goal or 2 in transition is going to be the one to win this game, and that's because it's going to be tough to score settled 6-on-6 against both these defenses.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm just trying to see if there's any injury reports yet for this week, which I haven't seen pop out at all.
They're gonna come out Friday at 4, and we're gonna just lose everything.
Typically, it's earlier in the week that the PLL drops theirs. But here's the history of Woods Whips that the league tweeted out. 2019, week 5 in Atlanta. I was there. That was a lot of fun. That's the famous, Nat St. Laurent celebrating on the sidelines and everything. Woods won 14-11. That was Whips' first loss of the 2019 season. And then they got their revenge in Toronto as Whips won 17-4. Then they had the championship game in overtime. Whips win 12-11. Then 2020, game 1 in Salt Lake City in the bubble. Whips won 13-9. And then 2020 semifinals in Salt Lake City in overtime. The famous Jeremy Sievert's front flip goal, 13-12, Whips win. 2021 week 5 in Minneapolis. This was post Matt Rambo hand injury, so Woods did get a nice little upper hand there and dominated 13-7. 2021, Week 8 in Albany, Whips won 14-12. And then 2021 quarterfinal, Salt Lake City, no overtime, but still a one-goal game. 12-11, Whips win, and Whip Snakes lead the series 6-2 all-time, including 3 straight playoff wins. I mean, if you're Nat, you gotta kind of boil this down to you've got 2 wins in the regular season against this Whips team, and you want to kind of get that tension off your shoulders as a coach. So that's another thing that, just adding to that storybook rivalry, which is, it's going to be the 9th all-time game, including the playoffs, between these two teams, which is wild to think about in year 4 of the PLL. Let's move on to Team Canada 1 versus Team Canada 2, Deej. Both teams 0-3. Both teams getting guys back that just saw each other for 3 straight weeks. The Chaotic Bandits back with Chaos minus Max Adler, who's on the PUP list. But Josh Byrne, Dane Smith, Chase Frazier, Ian McKay, Chris Kluche, and making his PLL debut, if he makes that game day roster, which we all think he will, Tahoka Nanticoke. Very excited to see Tahoka in person, taking on Dylan Ward and the Water Dogs. This game is no pun intended here, going to be a dogfight. Both teams 0-3, needing that first win. Jack Rowlett said in the press conference this past week, this time last year, this team with those guys were also 0-3, and look what happened. Getting those guys back, fresh wound of losing a championship in the NLL. And Dylan Ward riding high as a guy who's been doubted time and time again by so many people. Not us, but people who are lunatics doubting him. We'll get to see the sweatpants for the first time at the ripe hour of 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time on the East Coast. I am going to be like the Tom and Jerry gif, like holding my eyes open at 9:15 p.m. But under the lights at Homewood, Chaos, Water Dogs. Chaos getting their guys back is huge. Chaos getting their guys back, now getting an opportunity to play with KJ and Challen Rogers is huge, because Challen stepped right into this offense last week and looked like he'd been playing for Andy Towers for years. I was blown away by how seamless he fit in. Like, I knew he was going to be good, but my goodness, it was like he had been with this Chaos team since the beginning. So that's exciting. And we get Dylan Ward versus Blaze Reardon, which is always a fun goalie matchup. What are your keys to this game for both of these teams being 0-3? And who knows if Jake Withers is going to be back yet. He missed last week again with the injury, so that could also be a huge factor in this game at the Stripe, as Tommy Kelly has played very well to start this year for Chaos.
Water Dogs struggled defensively last week. They do that again this week, they're going to be in trouble. I don't think those Bandits boys are going to have any trouble getting reacclimated to the field game. I think you have more trouble, going back to box. In my opinion, there's less space, smaller net, a lot more factors you have to work with there. They're going to have so much more space, and it's going to move at a speed that's going to be better for them. So if that Water Dogs defense is not ready, they're going to be looking exactly like they did last week against Archers, and in a tough scenario where they're losing a lot to a little. And that's really all I'm looking at. Like, the Stripe is going to be interesting because Tucci is there for the Water Dogs.
I do have the injury report, and Jake Withers is listed as questionable.
So we don't know necessarily who's going to be there, but I mean, regardless of who's there, they should give TK a run for his money. So that's obviously always something to watch. And then goaltending. Blaze is Blaze, so not really watching that, but Dylan Ward having to step into a bigger net, into, guys shooting from different, I guess it's a lot different in what you see.
Different angles.
The outside shots are different. And just coming over and playing in heat versus indoors. There's a lot of
Having
different
just
factors.
faced 55 shots a week ago.
Yeah,
in terms of saves.
So I'm excited to see what he's going to do and how he gets back in. But he's probably got the biggest adjustment to make as far as players coming back. So I'll be watching that as well.
I do have the full injury report here. I didn't see it because it was tweeted a day ago. So here it is, quick rundown. Grant Ament, questionable with the lower body injury. Lyle Thompson, upper body injury, questionable. He did play last week, so I expect Lyle to play. Anthony DeMeo is out for Redwoods. Eddie Glazner is questionable with a torso injury. John Sexton just added to the active roster, so it looks like he is going to play, but he is listed as questionable with the lower body. Steve DiNapoli, lower body injury. He is out for Water Dogs. Water Dogs, the most banged up team on this injury report. Chris Sabia, lower body injury. He's questionable. Michael Sowers, the medical. He's questionable. Jake Withers, the lower body. He's questionable. Here's an interesting one that might mess with the Dogs a little bit. Mikey Schlosser, lower body injury. Doubtful for this week. And then Jake Bernhardt for the Whips, lower body injury. He is questionable. So, yeah, having no Mikey potentially is a big blow to this Water Dogs team as well.
Yeah, he had a 2-point bomb last week.
That was ridiculous. Cannons and Chrome, two teams that were fighting for a playoff spot a year ago, two teams that look like they're in totally different places now a year later. Chrome 3-0, Cannons 1-2. Cannons looking to put together a full game still, and Chrome are absolutely rolling. What I'm looking for is Chrome to just continue what they've been doing. Continue to prove the doubters wrong. Continue to prove that this is no fluke. Like, you are here. You're looking to win the league. You're looking to qualify for the championship series. And you're looking to show, like, yeah, we had guys retire, that were leaders on this team, but now we have guys stepping up in new ways. We have young blood here, and we're vibing. We're having the time of our lives, and we're out here winning games the way we know we can. And for Cannons, you got to put that full 48 together. The stripe, I think, is going to be huge here. Bones Kelly versus Connor Farrell, the way both of those guys have been playing this year. We've seen kind of Jekyll and Hyde from Bones, 2 very good weeks this year. And then obviously Charlotte was a little different because he was playing against Trevor. But we've seen the way Connor Farrell's been playing this year. Another, physical, heftier matchup for Bones. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. That's what I'm really looking at, is the possession game in this one. Because if Cannons can get possessions, this game can be a lot of back and forth and more similar to the game Chrome just played in against Water Dogs, where it's high scoring, going back and forth, rather than, them just kind of dominating and being able to lock down with that man-to-man defense.
Yeah, for this one, I'll say last week, the Bernlohr Concannon matchup might have been the most exciting goalie matchup I've seen, but I've never been more excited to watch two goalies. I'm so excited to watch Sean Scanoni play against Nick Morocco this weekend. They've been phenomenal so far to start the year. Think that continues, no doubt. And this is going to be a good game from the both of them. So that's like my first and main key to look out for. Obviously, the stripe is going to be huge. Transition game, see if they choose to play it at all from either side. Are they going to push heavy in transition, or if they're just going to fall back and let their offenses do the work? And then Pulver. I'm really interested to see who they decide to put Jake Pulver on defensively and how well he does. I'm 1,000% it's either going to be Nick Turn or Logan. Just not 100% sure who and how well he does. So his matchup is the one I'm watching on their defensive side.
You want to talk about transition? Chrome's transition with somebody I voted for in my All-Star ballot, Eli Salama. My goodness.
And Mike Manley. Mike Manley's
been like Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Like, ridiculous. The goal he scored on Long Island this past weekend, close up in the crease, long pole goal, ridiculous.
The give and go. Tight hands, soft.
I was like, you're a man. I literally, in my head, was like, you're a maniac.
It was beautiful.
In the voice of someone, I'm the maniac. Mike Manley has been a certified maniac this year. Let's get to what I believe is the game of the week. The final game of the weekend. Archers Atlas. Atlas looking to bounce back. First time coming off a loss this year. Archers have been rolling for 2 weeks straight, putting up a 20-piece on Cannons last week. The most goals they've scored in the regular season as a franchise ever. Obviously, they scored the 25 in the first round draft pick game back in 2019, but most goals they've scored in a regular season game ever in Archers history. This is just going to be very fun offense. I think this is going to be Archer's true possession test because they're going to have the boy, probably, Frankie Labetti, who has been proving the doubters wrong since he stepped in for Ignacio with the travel restriction issues, going up against Trevor Baptiste. Let's see what you got, young buck, going up against the best face-off guy going right now. The Archers offense, though, has been unbelievable. Having talked to Tom Schreiber the past couple weeks in the post-game pressers, he brought up last year when Archers lost to Chaos, like, he felt like this team had the pieces. Like, they have the guys in place to win a championship. And I asked him about that a couple weeks ago, and he said, yeah, now it feels like we have the pieces and the depth behind us. You look at, Connor DeSimone stepping up. Matt Moore has been fantastic. Having those young rookie pieces come in and being able to fill a void and slot right into Grant Amen's position and put up numbers for this team and mesh perfectly with the Schreibers, the Ryan Amblers, Will Manny, who I think is right now the MVP of the league through 3 weeks of the season, Marcus Holman, they've stepped in with these offensive pieces that have been together for a while and have just meshed perfectly. But now it's a matter of, can you get possessions going against Trevor Baptiste, and seeing how quickly this Atlas offense is played sans last weekend. This is going to be an exciting matchup and a potential playoff preview.
Yeah, watch for the double pull in the face to try and negate Trevor and get more possessions there in the stripe game. But this one for me is about offense and taking advantage of the few opportunities they're going to be given, which is wild to say, but these are probably the two best defenses this year in terms of just units. They're both very solid units that do not give up a lot of opportunities, especially that crazy Atlas defense that runs like the total. Like I've seen it with Atlas and now Chrome as well, running that total like man-to-man island defense. You're out there alone. You're playing one-on-one. If you get beat, he's going to score. It's just unreal to watch how they do it and just give up so few opportunities. So I'm just interested to see what offense is going to take advantage of the opportunities they're given and make them stick, because that's what's going to stand out. And then obviously, do they put Rex Road on more behind like they've done most of the year and have him on X, or do they put him on Manny to try and slow him down is another big thing.
Yeah, because the way Matt Moore has found success is him running out of the box, and he's been very comfortable doing that. And I think the other big thing is, we don't talk enough about it. We talk about Dylan Ward being out for Water Dogs, all the Chaos Boys being out. Connor Fields and Warren Jeffrey are now back for Archers. Like, Warren Jeffrey slotting into this defense now is huge. Connor Fields being able to come back and kind of play that hybrid midfield attackman role like he did last year, huge. I'm very excited to see how this Archers team, getting more depth back, continues to roll. And I'm very excited for this matchup. This is like my billing it game of the week. Turn on ESPN Plus. Get your popcorn ready, because Atlas Archers is going to be a ton of fun to watch.
I 100% agree. I've completely forgot about Warren Jeffrey coming back. I think that 100% solidifies the double pull at face now, because you have freed up Scott Ratliff to go up there and be on the opposite side of Jarrett Connors. So we'll see a lot of the double pull there on the face-off. And also, I think you're wild for calling this game of the week. This is going to be a fantastic game, but the rivalry takes proceeds over that every single time. That 100% is going to be game of the week.
I'm simply just talking about how both of these teams have played this year. Like, they've been very, very, dominant on offense, dominant defensively, and I think this is a game more so than Whips Woods is right now, where both teams are, where Woods are 1-2, Whips are 3-0. This is a game where both teams are 2-1. this could determine a lot in the standings. Goal differential, like these two teams are going to have to trade blows with each other because one, I think they're going to see each other in the playoffs, and two, this game alone could determine where both of these teams wind up in the standings in terms of tiebreakers, because I think both of these teams are that good. I'm just super pumped to see because both teams have been rolling, and I think last week was Atlas's first true test against a ridiculous defense who has been, in my opinion, the best defensive unit is Whipsnakes, and that's kind of been the case since year one because they've played together for so long, but they really limited what Atlas was able to do on offense, and now you're getting a defensive unit that is Graham Hosick, Warren Jeffrey coming back, Matt McMahon, like another defensive unit that we've talked about on this show time and time again as a top 3 defensive unit in the league, and it's another test. And this is one of those things that for Atlas, if you win this game, it shows you can bounce back from adversity, and it shows you're the real deal. If you lose this game, it doesn't necessarily show you're not the real deal, but now it's like, okay, you're 500. This is kind of where people expected you to be at this point in the season. How do you recover from losing 2 straight going into week 5 and then having the All-Star break? So I think this is a big game for a lot of reasons for both of these teams, where Whips Woods, it's another installment in the rivalry, and I think it's one of those things that it's more so important for Redwoods than it is for Whipsnakes. I think there's a lot more pressure on Redwoods at this point in the season, at this point in like just the rivalry as a whole, where if Whipsnakes lose their first game of the year, they're still fine. They're 3-1. Woods lose, they're 1-3. The goal differential's probably getting more and more negative, and then is it, does the panic button start to lift the lid off of it and you try to figure out what's going on? I think this game's more important for one singular team in that, where Archer's Atlas, it's important for both teams for a plethora of reasons.
I wasn't even thinking on that tip at all. I was just thinking solely on past and emotion, and like it's just,
he said
it's
emotional damage.
Facts. Like it's going to be pure fireworks based solely off of that. Like these two teams legitimately hate each other. Like there's some dislike and some close to hate between two teams, others like other places, but these two teams legitimately hate each other, and that's from top to bottom. No matter, we hate each other. Like, like me and, Whips fans don't talk to each other, and all we do is banter wherever we are because that's just how it is. There's nothing about Whips that I like except a few of their players.
And their merch.
And they do got some cool merch. But, like, it's just one of those things where it's like it's turned into a Packers-Bears thing.
I was going to ask you what the equivalent was. I wasn't sure if it was Packers-Bears or Packers-Vikings.
No, total Packers-Bears. Like, I don't want.
Yeah, it's Eagles-Cowboys for me.
Ooh, okay. Which is pretty much Packers-Vikings, because I would say Giants-Eagles is the bigger one.
Giants-Eagles is the rivalry with the teams, where Eagles-Cowboys is rivalry with the fans.
Yeah.
Like the fans hate each other. It's like, we have no connection to Dallas. And because the fans hate each other, the teams hate each other. Where the Giants, like, you can have a football conversation with a Giants fan and feel like you're having an intelligent conversation, because at least Giants fans are knowledgeable of the sport, where Cowboys fans are also, Lakers and or Golden State Warriors fans, and they're also Yankees fans, and they're also, probably Tampa Bay Lightning fans if they're hockey fans. So it's tough to have an intelligent conversation with them. But that's where it is with Redwoods Whips.
I agree. Like, it's the opposite though. Like the Vikings that's total fan. Like, we literally just hate the fans over there. Mm-hmm. The team is never really a concern. They don't compete on the field many times. Who cares? I don't even think the teams hate each other. I think that, it's just whatever, another game. But then it's like the way I see Whips and Woods is like on the field, the coaches, the fan, like the total embodiment of everything that goes into that game hates each other, just like Packers, Bears. Like that week comes up during football season and it's all hate. Like you see all the pictures, all the videos, the graphics.
That's why I think it's Eagles Cowboys for me, because like they bill it as that in the media. Like you get the videos, it's Eagles Cowboys, like all that kind of stuff, and that's how it feels with Redwoods and Whip Snakes.
Like seeing that video of Matt Rambo scoring on Landis every year is like, it sucks for me, but it's going to remind me that now every year I'm going to get to hear and see Aaron Rodgers tell Bears fans that I still own you for years to come. Because I
have a hot take about them continuing to play that video, by the way, now.
Oh, yeah, me too. But every time the Packers Bears comes up, I'm going to see that video of Aaron Rodgers saying I still own you, and that makes me so happy.
I think Whip Snakes fans, before we get into our picks, I'm gonna drop the mic here. I think Whip Snakes fans have one more year of being able to brag about that goal. You get a 5-year window to brag about your championship against a team. Once that rolls over, it's kind of old hat. You know, you beat another team after that for a championship, and then you lost a championship. You get a 5-year window. Like, that's where I'm at with the Eagles right now. I get this year to kind of, like, live in the glory of that 2017 Super Bowl, and then I move on. Because will I still celebrate it? Absolutely. But I don't still get to, you know, talk the shit because it's been a while since we've been there. And now it's kind of a whole new squad with the Eagles that are there. You know, I'm still not sitting here reminiscing about the Phillies winning the World Series in 2008. Like, it gets old. It gets old. Well, they're a different breed. They're a different kind of dystopian fan base.
That's not even just the fan base. That Celtics team gets together every year to celebrate.
Yeah. Well, theirs is more to kind of have a burn book on Ray Allen, but I digress. Let's feed some Baltimore Ducks, Deej, and get into our PLL Baltimore Picks of the Week, powered by Pickup. You guys can go to playpickup.com, start playing the hottest headlines in sports, rack up points on your fan profiles, cash them in for prizes. That's playpickup.com. We kick off the weekend 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN2 with Woods and Whips at Homewood Field. Another chapter in the storied rivalry. How do you see this one playing out for the boys, Deej?
As much as I don't want to do this, because I don't think it's a smart idea, I like the way they played last week. I like the momentum they have going. The homie is back. The offense looks good. And this is the game that brings out the very best in them. I'm going to take the Woods to go ahead and win a very tough game. But I'm not confident in this pick whatsoever. Just got to throw that out there.
I said last week I was going to need to see Redwoods win 2 games in a row before I felt confident picking them again in our pick segment. And I feel right now there are 2 teams who, until proven otherwise, you can't really pick against them. One of those teams is the Whip Snakes. As much as it pains me to say it, I gotta pick Whip Snakes until further notice. And I'll be very, very thrilled if Redwoods prove me wrong here. I will take that L in our picks gladly. But until I see Redwoods win and play consistently for multiple weeks in a row, and until I see Whip Snakes give me a reason to not pick them, I got to pick Whip Snakes here. Next game, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Get the caffeine ready, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you're on the East Coast, because this is 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time start on the East Coast. Battle of the Defeateds. Both teams 0-3. Chaos, Water Dogs, getting their boys back. I'm intrigued by this matchup in a lot of ways. The Water Dogs have not been able to close games this year. They're very banged up. Chaos getting the reinforcements back. It's like, you know, Avengers Endgame. Everybody's coming through the portal to come help out this Chaos team who's been badgered by putting a makeshift team together. I think getting the boys back and getting an opportunity to shoot on Dylan Ward for an entire 48 minutes has them salivating. I'm excited to see these guys with Challen Rogers, with KJ, with Tanner Cook, Ryan Smith, and the rest of those boys. I'm going to take Chaos to get their first win of the season, especially with Water Dogs being as banged up as they are.
Yeah, my thing is more about Water Dogs being banged up. I think Chaos takes this. Also because, speaking back to Jack Rowland and what he said last year, this team being 0-3, and this is just a very pivotal, this team that loses this week is probably not making the playoffs. It's going to be very tough to come back from 0-4. I don't see Chaos going to an 0-4 hole.
Saturday kicks off at 6 p.m. All night games this week, by the way, for the people at home. Cannons, Chrome. Battle of the two teams who were in last place last year. Chrome 3-0, Cannons 1-2. Chrome, as you see on the swaggy ass rope hat that I've got on right now, if you're watching on YouTube, they've not given me a reason to pick against them. They are the most fun team in the league to watch right now, in my opinion. They are playing with swagger. They're playing very fun, very loose. Everybody's getting involved. Their defense is unbelievable to watch. Scanoni has been, flipping me the triple bird for, suggesting that they get another goalie over him. And I'm glad that he's playing well. He's so fun to watch. Connor Farrell is so back. And I don't know if it's because it's a Thor movie release year, but he is so back. Give me Chrome to win this one. I have no reason to not pick them.
Yeah, I like Chrome in this one too. And my thing is defense this year. I don't think Cannon's defense is as strong as Chrome's defense, and Chrome has been off. Their offense has been phenomenal these past few weeks, especially with Logan finally popping off after having a slow first week with everything with National Championship Tour time going on. So I expect their offensive flow to continue to continue flowing, honestly. So don't see anything slowing down there for their offense. So that's the reason I take Chrome over Cannons is offensively.
8:45 p.m. Eastern Time, final game of the weekend, Archers Atlas. Very different situation for these two teams than it was back in 2019 when they were playing for the first overall pick in the draft. Both of these teams kind of rising from the ashes and have been very consistently good for the past couple years. Both 2-1. Archers rolling, Atlas coming off their first loss, as we mentioned earlier in the show. Deej, how do you see the battle of the two teams that start with A in this league going down Saturday night?
This one's, like you said, is going to be a battle. Labetti has played great, but has not played someone to the tune of Trevor Baptiste this year. Baptiste has continued to take a step up even after last year. We've seen some good face-off guys this year, but Baptiste is definitely ruling the league at the stripe. So I think that's going to play a big key in this is that I did mention Archer's double pulling the face, but I still don't know how much that's going to help. So I think our Atlas will have enough in terms of possession to give their offense just a few more chances to score and come out with a win.
We got another swing game this week. I like the Archers in this matchup. As Tom Schreiber has said to me in the press conferences, they have the depth behind guys to come in and keep guys fresh. They've been rolling offensively. I forget if I said this on pod or before we started recording. Will Manny has had such a phenomenal year so far, 3 games into the season, that I felt like Marcus Holman was having another slow start to the year, and I looked at his stats the other night. He's got 7 goals on the year. Will Manny's been playing so well that it's making Marcus look like, he's not really doing much, but he's having a great year again, too. Tom Schreiber's been fantastic. Deso and Matt Moore have been unbelievable as rookies stepping into this offense. Ryan Ambler's been great, as always. Connor Fields, back. Warren Jeffrey back. Gitz has been playing great. Graham Hossack, reigning Defensive Player of the Year, playing fantastic. I like the scrappiness of Frankie Labetti, so I'm intrigued to see how that matchup goes down for him against Trevor Baptiste and how he kind of maneuvers his game to stay in it. And I just think when you have the MVP through 3 weeks of the season on your roster, it's tough to pick against you. So give me Will Manny and this Archers offense to go toe-to-toe with Atlas and get their third straight win of the season. So to recap, DJ's going Woods, Chaos, Chrome, Atlas, and your boy KB is going Whip Snakes, Chaos, Chrome, Archers. And that's your PLL Baltimore picks of the week, powered by our homies over at Pickup. Deej, the All-Star Ballots live. I tweeted out my first All-Star ballot. You also did one. I don't know if you saved it or not.
I did.
But I have mine here that I'll read off for the people. I'm sure you and I will do a few more before the All-Star game actually gets here. But my first All-Star ballot, just looking at, the vibes and looking at who I think is deserving of an All-Star spot. There's guys who I think won't get the recognition that they deserve because other guys play that position, so I voted for them as well. Because we all know, like, Mike Earhart's going to get the LSM votes. So I went in a different direction to give a guy who I think has played at an all-star level some recognition. So that's where I've gone with my votes. I tweeted it out. I said, they've been balling, carrying their squads, or have shown out, and they deserve recognition. So my three attackmen that I picked in my initial all-star ballot here, MVP Will Manny, Jeff T, and Logan Wisnauskas. My midfield, Tom Schreiber, Jules Henningberg, Mike Chanenchuk. My defense, Mike Manley, Graham Hossack, Liam Burns. Trevor Baptiste is my face-off guy. Short stick D middies, Danny Logan. My LSM is Eli Salama. And my goalie, Blaze Reardon.
So I went for my first one. I wanted to give purely off of like who's most deserving off of their play on the field, 100%, regardless of who else is going to vote for him. Because I'm probably going to do another 2, 3, 4, 5 of these things before All-Star actually comes around, and those will be based more off of who do I think is an All-Star personally. Some of them would strictly just be my favorite players to try and get them a few extra votes and that kind of stuff.
Vote KJ47 to go to the All-Star game, by the way. Shout out to the boy.
Big facts. I went with attack, Teat, Thompson, Manny. I mean, pretty clear cut. Like, can't say Lyle Thompson's ever not an All-Star in any league he plays in.
Only reason I didn't vote for Lyle was just he missed the one game. But that's not saying he's not an All-Star. I just voted for Logan, too, because I think as a rookie he's earned it so far.
And then midfield, I went Jules, Asher, Tom Schreiber. Defense, Mike Manley, Jake Pulver, Graham Hossack. Face-off, Trevor Baptiste. Short stick D-mid, Danny Logan. LSM, Earhart. Goalie, Kyle Bernlohr. This is the one in this one. I'll say him and Hossack were like two guys that I felt deserved the recognition, even though their play wasn't necessarily the best out of their position. Bernlohr, after the year he had to play a position like goalie, that's such a head case to get pulled and to see your team still almost win a championship without you playing for more than half the season is tough to come back from. And he's looked like almost the best goalie in the league after all of that. So that was my reasoning for that. And Graham Hossack just doesn't have the points. He had all the ground balls and the caused turnovers. He just didn't have any offensive points to match, but he doesn't need to do that. That's not his role.
Right.
And he plays his role so efficiently that I can't not give him an All-Star vote.
Yeah, he's the reigning D boy, too.
Yeah.
So we'll have more All-Star ballots, but that was my initial one. And I think Eli Salama has played at an All-Star level and deserves votes. So vote for Eli, vote for KJ47, and vote for all your favorite OTB guests to get to the All-Star game in Boston. But I think that's all we got for you guys. Anything else, Deej? Final thoughts? Anything to wrap up with for the people?
Nah, man. I'm just about to try and win this Holy Grail tournament, baby.
I'll be eating double at Jimmy's Seafood for you. And like I said at the top of the show, if you're gonna be in Baltimore, come say what's up. Very excited to be back at Homewood. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite venue all PLL season to go visit. And let's have a fun-ass weekend of lacrosse, everybody. Make sure you're following us on the socials at OTB LaxPod on Twitter and Instagram. Follow DJ on Twitter at SCS_NextGreat. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Check out the website, undergroundsportsphiladelphia.com, for all of our written content. Subscribe to the podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. Leave the 5-star ratings and reviews. It really helps the show. Get us on those charts. Help more people find the show. Let's get OTB Nation growing bigger and bigger. Join our Twitter communities as well. Trying to get that thing cooking a little bit more as the season progresses for the PLL. And subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Hit the like button. Click the bell icon. Comment down below. Get the comment section flowing. Share the video with your friends and family. And like I said, keep subscribing to the channel. It really, really helps us. And it's going to help us take what we do here at Underground Sports to the next level if you subscribe. So be a friend, tell a friend, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Big thank you to our sponsors, Tomahawk Shades, Kenwood Beer, and Beano Board. All of their information and our promo codes are linked in the show notes on audio on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and they're in the description on YouTube. Use our codes, help support our sponsors who support us. And it's been a hell of an episode. We'll be back next week, recapping Baltimore, talking about any NLL rumors, award announcements, and we'll have the All-OTB team information coming your way as well. But this has been episode number 227 of the allegedly award-nominated, honorably mentioned, and of course viewable on YouTube, Outside the Box podcast, part of the Underground Sports Philadelphia podcast network. For DJ, I'm KB. Till next week, we're getting the hell out of here. Peace.
Peace.